Good afternoon. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the webinar series, Resources That Matter for Latinx Entrepreneurs. I want to say welcome back to those of you that joined us in a prior session. And to those of you that are joining us for the very first time, I'm so glad you did. Happy Thursday to everyone. My name is Jennifer Garcia. I am the Interim CEO for Latino Business Action Network. I invite you to visit our website at www.lban.us to learn more about our mission and how we serve Latino-owned businesses. I am really excited to present this webinar today. This is part of a webinar series designed to bring education and resources that will enable you as business owners to grow and to thrive. Today's session, as well as our next session on June 8th, are both dedicated to capital. And why is that? It's because at LBAN, we know that accessing capital is imperative for your company's ability to grow and scale. We also know that many barriers exist in the process of accessing capital. So our goal today in this webinar and in the following webinar is to break down those barriers for Latino business owners, to break down those barriers for all of you. So I would say there is still time. Text another business leader, invite them to join. This will certainly be a very rich discussion. And of course, we're recording it and we invite you to disseminate the recording to your network of business owners, because again, we want to empower as many Latino-owned businesses to get access to the education and resources that will help them grow and thrive. This webinar is made possible due to the support of many. I want to recognize our LBAN team, Elian Savadivker, Liz Puente, Marianne Garcia. They have all done tremendous work putting this together. And certainly the webinar series is made possible through the support of Bank of America. They have become a strong supporter of LBAN. And because of their support, we are able to execute innovative and effective ways to bring education, resources, and ongoing support for Latino-owned businesses. Their commitment to the recovery of the United States economy and to diverse businesses is extremely admirable. And from a very personal perspective, it has been a delight to work with such a passionate members of the Bank of America team. So I do want to recognize Raquel Gonzalez, Kathy Gallagher, Linda Lentz, and Ray Velasquez. I want to take a moment and introduce you to Ray Velasquez to share a few words. Ray is the Senior Vice President and Market Executive for the Commercial Banking Group at Bank of America, managing and leading the activities of a team of relationship managers focused on delivering strategic financial guidance and solutions throughout the greater Los Angeles marketplace. The team's mission is to help local companies grow, improve cash flow, manage U.S. and international payments, and invest in the future. His team fulfills this mission by focusing on credit and lending deposits and cash management solutions to privately held companies with annual revenues from $5 million to $50 million. He is extremely passionate and involved in the community. I invite you to take a look at his full bio on the speaker page, but please join me in welcoming Ray to the virtual stage.
Thank you, Jennifer. I really appreciate that kind introduction. Buenos tardes a todos. It's a pleasure here to be with you all. I'm really excited to kick off today's session 2, all about that capital. I'll share with you on a personal and also professional basis. My father was an entrepreneur. He owned 3 companies throughout his lifetime, and my brother is currently a business owner. So I certainly have lived through growing up in that home environment, entrepreneur home environment, where the access to capital was everything. It's the lifeblood of your companies, and it's the vibrancy of your local communities and your ability to continue to grow with your employees and your customers alike. And so with that said, it's once again my pleasure to be here with you today. I want to thank Jennifer, Elian, and the entire LBAN team. It's been tremendously inspirational to me to work with them, because I know their mission is aligned with ours, and that is the commitment to the Latino entrepreneurs to help grow the businesses and help grow over that vibrancy of the economies that we all live and work in. At Bank of America, we're a firm believer that diversity makes us all stronger. All of us here live it and see it day in, day out. We believe that the fabric of our local communities are really based on all the work that you do as entrepreneurs and your ability to continue to grow your companies. And to that end, at Bank of America, I'm proud to say that we have invested and made a 5-year commitment of a $1.25 billion over the next 5 years into minority communities. And a big focus here, of course, on our Hispanic Latinos. And our partnership with LBAN is an example of that in action. And so we know that our actions will help address critical issues, long-term, short-term issues, anything from skills and job readiness, capacity, access to capital, small business support, and affordable housing. Through these investments, we will continue, and you'll see these in the community in this year and in following years, as we see this as a long-term investment. And so it's my pleasure to say that today's session, today's six-part series is a part of that commitment. And so I'm excited to see today's panel, great discussion about accessing capital. And so I want to thank you all for all that you do each and every day as entrepreneurs. I know it takes a lot of courage, a lot of determination, a lot of ganas to get the things done. And so I want to thank you again for all that you're doing. I want to thank you for your participation and making the investment of your time to attend today's session. And so with that, I look forward to today's exciting discussion. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you for sharing those words. And again, thank you to the support from Bank of America. Well, we certainly have a phenomenal panel lineup today with accomplished speakers, and I encourage you to view their full bio on the speaker page. But let me welcome to the stage, joining us from Acción Opportunity Fund, is Adriana Eiriz, who is the Vice President of Sales and Partnerships. We also have Sergio Rivas, who is the Small Business Performance Manager at Bank of America, and Mark Madrid, the Associate Administrator in the Office of Entrepreneurial Development in the Small Business Administration. So thank you all for joining us today. Let me just take care. We have some feedback. Great. Wonderful. Let's go ahead and get this conversation started. I do want to say we have over 500 registrants. We have businesses of all sizes represented in today's events, from solopreneurs to large multi-million-dollar companies. And as we begin to uncover the various capital options available and that are applicable to different sizes of companies, Adriana, let's just start the conversation with you. From Acción Opportunity Fund, can you share just what is the role of a CDFI today, and how would a business owner know if a CDFI is a right lending institution based on their capital needs?
Bueno, first of all, Jennifer, muchísimas gracias por la oportunidad de estar aquí con todas las pequeñas empresas y junto a Mark y a Sergio. To answer your question, what is a CDFI? It's the first question that people ask. It's a community development financial institution. And what does that mean? It means that we're a private financial institution that we dedicate 100% of our efforts to deliver responsible, affordable lending and technical assistance, education, to help low income, low wealth, and other disadvantaged people and communities that want to join the economic mainstream. So our mission is obviously to reach as many small business entrepreneurs that are needing capital to expand, to grow, to propel their business, as well as educational tools that would allow them to understand how to really be more successful and make their dreams come true. And so what role do we play? We play a very important role because in the case of Acción Opportunity Fund, for example, we've been around for 25 years. This last fiscal year, 43% of our clients have been Latino-owned businesses. So we look at being able to build products that specifically offer the tools from a capital disbursement to educational tools to all these businesses. And why would a business choose Acción Opportunity Fund or a CDFI in our particular case? Because It is the requirements, the eligibility, and I know that we'll dive into this a little bit further on in our conversation, but we accept businesses that have a minimum of 12 months in business. So that if you are not a startup, but you've been in business just for a year, a CDFI like Acción Opportunity Fund is the place for you to come to. If your revenue is a minimum of 50,000 annual revenue, Acción Opportunity Fund is the CDFI for you. So there's a lot of flexibility around the credit criteria, the eligibility piece, and specifically because we're a CDFI, we are required to comply with specific CDFI requirements, like 60% of our loans have to go to low and moderate income small business owners. So there is a task that we have, a mission that allows us to be so passionate about what we do all day long. And being able to help the Latino community has been probably the core of what we've done all these 25 years.
Wonderful. Thank you, Adriana, for sharing that. Mark, let's go with you. You are representing the Small Business Administration, and certainly under the Biden administration and the American Rescue Plan, there are many programs, recovery programs that have come out of that office. And certainly you're embarking on a new one that I'm sure will be made public or will be widely disseminated shortly. But Mark, what should small business owners know about accessing lending from the SBA? And are there specific programs right now that you want to highlight for our audience?
Well, thank you. It's an honor to be here with Familia. I mean, it's always an honor to be back with LBAN. And hello, Rocky and Ray and Kathy and Sergio, and of course, Jennifer, Elian, Marianne, and the new members at LBAN, and all of you small business owners. What a great service this is to connect to you where you are. And I can tell you that is a goal of this administration. That is a goal of our amazing administrator of the SBA, Administrator Isabela Garcia Guzman. As Administrator Guzman has a demonstrated track record of results and having a connection to the ground. And we share that sentiment. And so thank you, Jennifer, for this opportunity. And Adriana, CDFI, I just want to reinstate, reiterate with all of you, you don't have to know what that acronym means spelled out. You don't have to remember it. You just have to know that this is a resource for you in terms of a roadmap. What this series is trying to do is create a North Star for you, a compass. And I'll say three things, and now I'll mention a couple of things that we've done and where we're going. But I just want to mention three things just to frame it. Is number one, knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. Number two, meet and get to know your capital providers before you need the money. And step three is repeat. Step one, knowledge is power. Step two, meet your capital providers before you need the money. And step three, repeat. It really comes down to those three principles. And so here you have all the players around you that are willing to help you, from the Small Business Administration to a CDFI on your way to a banking partner. And so I just want to reinforce one thing that I know many of you who are part of the LBAN family already know about. So let's get real. You know, the first draw of the Paycheck Protection Program in 2020, over 80% of Latinx owners, this from the Stanford Latino Entrepreneurship Initiative research, but over 80% said that we found that a barrier to PPP back then, flashback about 12, 13 months ago, was lack of guidance, lack of a relationship with a banker, or any other confusing element. And so that had to lead to Latinx, Latinos, and Latina business owners being approved at half the rate as white-owned businesses. But then there was another just amazing revelation, is that the alumni of the Stanford Latino Entrepreneurship Initiative Education Scaling Program, over 80% of those Latino and Latina business owners were approved. All that to say is that if you surround yourself by trusted advisors, by real-time support, it could help you navigate through this very difficult period that we're in. I just want to thank you for your persistence. Some of you don't know you're going to be open next week. Some of you have had a breakthrough with a restaurant revitalization grant potentially being approved for that was under the American Rescue Plan. Some of you perhaps are thinking, my goodness, I did get that PPP financing, but is it forgivable? And others are thinking, what now? What next? And so I just want to direct you to a couple of resources that will be helpful for you. If you have the opportunity right now on your mobile phone or on a separate window, please do me a favor and go to sba.gov, sba.gov, and add it to your favorites. And there's a toggle at the very top in terms of, I'm going to use the word navigator quite a bit in my, I'm going to go about 2 more minutes here. But if you go into the top navigation, you'll see an option that says funding programs. I want you to go there. Take 5 minutes later on today and give that to yourself. Give that knowledge as power. Learn about the EIDL, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, where you can get a loan if you qualify for a 30-year amortization at about a 3% rate. Also, local assistance. If you go to the top right, and there's an option for you that says local assistance. Go there, enter your zip code, and you'll find where our district offices are, or our resource partners. I have the honor of serving in this position that oversees all the small business development centers, women's business centers, and SCORE chapters across the United States. Also in our office is an online women's business curriculum called Ascent, also an online learning center, and the Emerging Leaders Initiative. So there's resources there. The last thing I'll say is 2 days ago, under this office, we launched our funding opportunity for the Community Navigator Pilot, a $100 million granting opportunity for organizations that should service you and meet you where you are. So this is a call out to those potential applicants and the spokes, the community champions who are out there on the street. That is our goal, is for them to meet you where you are so that we can track as you matriculate into SBA programs. So we have microloans, the EIDL loan, we have a targeted EIDL advance, a lot of acronyms, but do me a favor, just go to sba.gov. In the navigation, select funding programs and also local assistance. So thank you for the opportunity to be here on behalf of Administrator Guzman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for sharing that. And that's in the chat. We've put the sba.gov link in the chat where you could find additional resources from the SBA. So now you have some insight on a CDFI, SBA. Sergio, let's go to you now. Can you share a little bit about the unique products that a national bank might be able to offer that perhaps are often overlooked by small business owners?
Hey, Jennifer, good afternoon. Buenas tardes. Thank you for having me here today. Listen, I believe that almost all national banks offer very similar products and solutions. They all offer commercial real estate loans, equipment loans, credit cards. But I believe what sets the banks apart from each other is really the product details, the personnel, staffing at the banks, and the loyalty programs that each bank offers. So, for example, when I say product details, right, most banks offer credit cards, but not all offer business credit cards, right? Here at Bank of America, if you're a corporation, for example, or an LLC, our business credit card is going to report to your business credit report, thus helping you establish business credit. Same thing with auto loans. Most banks offer auto loans. We offer business auto loans. And again, if you're an established corporation or LLC, the loan will report to your business credit report and not your personal credit report. When I think of personnel and staffing, most national banks have a business specialist. You want to have a relationship with someone at the bank that will take the time to understand your business, make appropriate recommendations to help you in your business. I love that Adriana and Mark talked about education. Knowledge is power, right? This person essentially is an advocate for you and your business. So, plus they'll always be, able to update you with the latest and greatest promotions and the requirements that they have at that particular bank. Lastly, banks are about relationships. The stronger the relationship, the more likely you're able to take advantage of their programs. As an example, and I promise this is my last shameless plug here at Bank of America, we have a free loyalty program called Preferred Rewards for Business, where clients are able to take advantage of rate discounts on loans, more cash back on their business credit cards, and additional discounts on services that we offer. So again, most banks very similar in products, but just different features and benefits. If you don't have a banker at your current bank, or you're not being rewarded for your banking relationship, my advice is go shop a few banks, see what bank is going to benefit you and your business the most.
That's great advice. Great advice, Sergio, to know that you are the client and you have options. Adriana, let me go to you, and from the lens of a CDFI, when you think about products and services that are common or even unique within a CDFI, how would that compare or contrast to what Sergio shared?
Well, I think the first thing I want to share is something that I think is extremely important, and I'm sure that my colleagues here will share this, that whoever the lender is that a small business chooses, the most important homework any business owner can do is to make sure you understand what the repayment terms are, how it will impact your business, and to make sure that you're working with a responsible lender. That's one of the key things, no matter who you choose and whoever's the best fit for you. Because I also think that the fit is according to the stage in which a business is in, right? And we all here are trying to push and help small business entrepreneurs graduate from one stage to the other, right? And I think that that's, to your question, Jennifer, I think that for us as a CDFI, we believe that we want to be able to take these small businesses and provide them, again, with business resources that will help them propel, help them understand cash flow, help them understand what are the needs for them to really actually be able to apply for a loan. So we go very granular into providing them not only participation in webinars, but business library resources. And there's many, many CDFIs that have wonderful technical assistance across the country. And then there's the capital piece. And the capital piece, obviously, I think for any lender, especially in this environment that we've been living in for the last year and a half, it's a bit tricky and a bit difficult, because how do we, at least from a nonprofit like us, how do we make sure that every dollar that comes in, which is what we do, goes out, right? And how do we keep making that happen, right? And being able to help as many businesses as we can. And that means making sure that we also take care of and are careful with our risks. And when we look at the businesses, how do we look at them? What do we look at the businesses? So it's not always just black and white. It's about the whole business. It's looking at the business as a whole. It's looking at where they were, where they are today, where they're planning to go into the future. But again, we are focused on minorities, colored, Black-owned businesses, Latino-owned businesses, women-owned businesses. That is the strength of the mission of a CDFI.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Adriana. It's interesting to think about the diverse representation that we have with us today. And you can imagine every business has its unique story, unique circumstances, and certainly their own cycle for needing capital. And so I want to ask both Adriana and Sergio, but Sergio, we'll start with you. What recommendations would you provide to companies that might not have sufficient credit history, collateral, cash flow? What advice or recommendations would you offer?
Hey, thank you. Good question. So, I'm going to go back to the banking and the relationship, and listen, that the bank is your friend. Most banks have a team of bankers that try to understand each company's strengths and opportunities, and we do our best to advise them. So for companies, for example, that might not have sufficient credit, we may advise them to start building credit by applying for a business credit card and building that credit history with us, so that down the road we can talk about qualifying for lending. The same with collateral and cash flow, right? We can advise the client, just depending on their specific scenario, educate the client on what they need, so again, the bank can extend credit to them in the future. Just because it's a no right now doesn't mean it's always going to be a no. Some of my favorite stories from my experience is, we had clients that we declined for one reason or another. We educated them on what they needed to address, and 1 to 2 years down the road, we got them approved. Lastly, we have great partners like Mark from SBA and Adriana from Acción here that may be able to assist as well. So having the contacts and the resources to refer clients to also is huge.
That's so great to think about your banker as not a transactional counterpart, but really someone to build that relationship with to get you from A to B. Thank you for sharing those ideas. Adriana, would you add anything to that for individuals that might not have sufficient credit history, collateral, or cash flow?
I mean, cash flow, I think, is a critical component. I think for any underwriting process, we need to see the business is earning revenue and has the capacity to repay the loan, obviously. Credit history is also a factor, and we always require the business owner to maintain a clean credit history for any type of approvals. And I think that a business owner would always want to be able to track that for themselves. I think as a short-term strategy, I think it's important for businesses to deposit revenue in their business bank account to demonstrate that they have cash flow coming in. When possible, we also tend to recommend separating, personal and business finances. So it's clear that the business is earning revenue on its own. And so all this is going to help the business be more sustainable. And then when they present these documentations, it's so much easier for the lender to be able to approve.
Great recommendation, that separation of personal and business funds. One that's probably a challenge for many businesses, specifically those early businesses. So thank you for sharing that as well, Adriana. In the 2020 State of Latino Entrepreneurship Research Report, we found that 35% Latino-owned businesses are immigrant-owned. And on the whole, immigrants are just likely to start businesses on their own, many of whom experience additional challenges because of potential undocumentation. So I want to ask everyone, and we'll start with Mark, how might being an undocumented business owner impact lending options from the SBA, if at all?
Sorry about that. Once again, I think it comes down to the principle of knowledge is power. We had some enhancements with our PPP product in terms of, TIN numbers and qualification. And so I think that there are opportunities. As you mentioned, our immigrant entrepreneurs are such economic boost to our American economy. They're job creators. And I know Adriana probably has some sentiments on this in terms of what's possible. We don't want any opportunity to be, unturned in terms of opportunities that are here. So I think when it comes to eligibility requirements, I go back to, having that time. I hope that you dug into that website, that you also go to Adriana's website and to Bank of America's, because you might be surprised that there are options for you. There are options for you, that they're alive and well. And it comes back down to what we were talking about earlier, is having that trusted advisor, that working relationship. I think there's, sometimes a hesitation to go into an environment if you don't trust it. And so I think that's the beauty of it all, is getting to know people like this network here. This network right here can provide in of its own in your networking channel. I'm sure there are options that people have leveraged that they will be able to share right here in this series. So those are the principles that I espouse to you, that I recommend, and that keep your options on the table, and there are options for you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mark. Adriana, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think that definitely one of the things that we often see is that there's a reluctance, right, to sign up for programs or services because it requires submitting a lot of personal information of documents, or they have this assumption, small business owners have an assumption, and Latinos, that it's only available for U.S. citizens. And sometimes out of fear, many of the most vulnerable people don't even apply for support. So if they think this information is going to be provided somehow, some way against them. Therefore, it's very important for us to help clarify as a lender what is needed from a documentation. That's why when it is possible, in the case of CDFIs, in our case at least, we accept ITIN numbers. So it's important for small businesses to understand that there's more doors open than doors closed. And they have to feel confident. And Mark said a word that I am a firm believer, and that is trust. And trust is key when you build a relationship with a financial institution.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you both for sharing that. We are about to go into some Q&A. So if you have questions for any of our panelists, please go ahead and put that in the chat. And in just a moment, we're going to start taking questions from the audience. So now's your time to go ahead and put those questions in the chat. Sergio, I do have a question for you. At LBAN, of all of the entrepreneurs that we work with, we consistently emphasize to the entrepreneurs the importance of owning your financials. From the perspective of a lender, can you just really underscore the role of financial statements in the loan application and the review process, and how a business owner should think about their financials?
No, most definitely. Thank you for that. Listen, accuracy is key with financial statements. Can't stress that enough. When you're applying for a loan, you and your banker are really trying to paint a picture of your business to underwriters that make these decisions on approving a loan or not. So, we talk about financial statements. They're really utilized to tell the financial story of your business, and it really helps the bank anticipate your projection and the direction of where your business is going. So, the balance sheet, right? It tells us your current equity, your assets, right? Your cash, your inventory. It shows us your liabilities such as rent, taxes, loans. This is helpful for the bank to understand your company's ability to take on new debt. The income statement, right? It outlines your daily operations, your expenses versus the income that's generated. Again, this is helpful, when looking to understand the business's debt to income and ability to pay back the loan. The last thing I'll say is this: there's the importance of having a good relationship with your banker and or accountant. If you have plans to take out a loan, such as a line of credit, or you're looking to buy a building, your tax returns is what tells us what your income is. And too often clients hate paying taxes. I get it. We all do, right? But when you're writing everything off, you're not showing a profit, you're really telling the bank that your business is not profitable, it's not making money. So on the flip side, if you're showing strong profits, yes, you're going to have to pay more in taxes, but it shows the bank that you're profitable, you have strong cash flow, therefore making your application that much stronger. So again, have that dialogue with both your accountant, your banker, on future plans at all times, so that we can all work together and be on the same page and help you get that financing that you need to continue to help your business grow.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. And that is such a dilemma that many business owners really struggle with, right? Preparing their records for tax purposes and preparing their records to make a strong financial case for lending options. So thank you for being transparent with that, Sergio. We do see a few questions coming in. Adriana, there's a question here for you in terms of what is the max loan size that your company, Acción Opportunity Fund, is able to provide? And are there collateral requirements?
Mm-hmm. On the loan amount for working capital is 100,000. So we lend from 5,000 to 100,000. And for equipment finance, which is for heavy and medium duty trucks and mobile food trucks, it's up to 200,000 in the case of mobile food trucks when they are brand new. And for the question on collateral, and if you recall, I said that cash flow is important for us. Collateral is less important for us as a CDFI because we're more focused on evaluating the business's income and the cash flow than asking the business or owner to pledge collateral against the loan. Now, we do, however, require a UCC, blanket lien, for larger dollar loans.
Great, thank you. We have another question from the audience here, really talking about 2020 and 2021, not being a true reflection of a company's history, but certainly being on the books. How do you anticipate total revenue and recovery impacting loan applications from 2020 and 2021? Sergio, do you want to take that question?
Yeah. So, we're taking it back to last year at PPP, a lot of things running through my mind. It goes back to the relationship with your bank, having the banker, being able to explain your story, what happened, What transpired? What did we do? Were we able to diversify? What did we do to change and pivot and continue to move on? I think that's very important, is being able to tell the story to your banker, so that the banker can understand and take that back to the underwriters, and see, what it is that we can do. The nice thing about what we've done here at Bank of America from a PPP standpoint is we're not counting that as debt in our cash flow analysis. So if you did take out a PPP loan, in the last 12 months, know that we're not going to count that as debt in our ratios and helping determine, if we can do this loan for you or not. So the key is communication, being able to tell the story, and again, have that relationship with the banker to be able to relay that information.
I'd like to jump in here as well. Sergio, great points, but that relationship with the banker and being honest and transparent and having that relationship for the continuity of purpose is absolutely key. On the SBA side, when I come back to the economic injury disaster loan EIDL, its whole purpose is to meet financial obligations and operating expenses that could have been met if a disaster had not occurred. And so when you go into funding options, if you qualify for this loan, the terms have gotten better in terms of there's now a max of up to $500,000, which was a huge jump that was enacted under this administration. And I go back to a 30-year amortization, a 3.75% loan with flexibility if you qualify. Also, there is our microloans that are available for loan sizes up to $50,000, and I believe the average loan size for that product is about $13,000. So I invite you to go back to the EIDL loan, which is different from an EIDL grant. You might hear the targeted EIDL advance, which is another product that's a grant for up to $10,000. You might be seeing more about that in the coming days, or might have access to grant. There is a difference between the loan and the grant. I would submit for your consideration that you take a look at both, but specifically take a look at the loan requirements for the EIDL loan, up to 30 years of amortization, no prepayment penalty, 3.75%, so that's 3.75% if you qualify for a maximum of up to $500,000.
Mark, thank you. Thank you for sharing those additional resources. And I know that there's just so many acronyms and relief aid coming out of the SBA, which is truly remarkable. I want to point people again back to the website, do a little bit of research, talk to and network with other entrepreneurs and small business owners, because likely there is someone on this call who has navigated the process that you can certainly leverage, ask questions and learn from each other. So thank you very much. I just want to say what an excellent conversation. Thank you to all of you, to our panel, Adriana, Sergio, Mark. What a pleasure to speak with you today. Thank you for sharing your insight, your experience, and your perspective as we really try to break down the barriers of accessing capital for Latino business owners. So thank you very much. Please join me in expressing your appreciation for our panelists in the chat. What a wonderful conversation.
Muchas gracias, con ganas.
Jennifer, muchísimas gracias.
Muchas gracias. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Well, to the audience, I'm going to say don't change that channel because the programming continues. One of the many things that surfaced due to COVID is the need for accurate and timely financial reporting and documentation. Sergio did a fantastic job about really outlining the importance of this documentation and how it's leveraged within an application review. We saw the lack of documentation become a barrier to accessing PPP funding for Latino-owned businesses, and Mark shared some of this in his remarks earlier. So I want to say that as you grow, it is important to invest in the infrastructure of your business. In our next stage, in the next segment of this conversation, we will highlight how you can leverage technology to maintain your financial records, because as Sergio stated, these are a requisite to accessing capital. We certainly have to move up from the shoebox or Excel accounting systems and really create a core infrastructure when it comes to your financial record keeping. So allow me to introduce to you our speakers. They are certainly industry experts, and I want to invite you again to view their full bio in the speakers tab. But we have Gustavo Juarez, founder and president of JPG, which provides accounting and finance outsourcing services. He is also a graduate of the Stanford Latino Entrepreneurship Initiative Scaling Program. Joining Gustavo is Jose Zavala, CEO and president of ZTX Advisors, specializes in the intricacies of running small to medium-sized businesses. So gentlemen, thank you for joining us in today's presentation. We're really excited to learn from your perspective. Both of you serve and equip small businesses. So I will pass the mic to you and let you take it away.
Thank you, Jennifer. It really is a pleasure and an honor to be here with everybody. And I know, speaking with you and with myself, and yeah, just a quick intro. Like I said, Jose Zavala, ZTX Advisors. We work with online businesses, and that's kind of our specialty. And I'm going to let my partner in crime here, Gustavo, introduce him a quick introduction as well.
Well, thank you, Jose, and thank you, Jennifer, for especially taking the time to open these type of conversations to empower our Latino community across the nation. That's really what we need. I mean, we all get into the small business conversation because we want to maybe quit that job. We want to achieve financial freedom. All of us want to. Some of us admit it, some of us don't. But at the end of the day, that's really what we're looking for. And I think that leveraging the expertise that Jose brings to the table, it's having a conversation on how do we use technology, how do we use resources from our networks to build wealth in America. I'll end up with that.
Nah, love it. And I couldn't have said it better myself. So we have a quick slide deck for you guys. We want to show everybody a little bit about what we're talking about. We're going to be discussing a cloud accounting application called Xero that both Gustavo and I use. And we're going to be talking with them and just kind of giving you guys a little bit about how the technology and how we've been able to implement and some kind of just some ideas and things like that there. So I'm going to jump right into it. And then Gustavo, of course, please feel free to jump in if you see anything that you'd love to say. So I'm going to share my screen real quick. And we'll jump into it right now, I believe. Let me find it. There it is. Okay. How to scale your business with cloud technology. So as you see here, we've got our two speakers right here. Of course, we're both, and funny story, we are both in Houston, Texas. So it goes to show you top talent in Houston. Our agenda today, we're going to talk about technology for your business. We're going to touch on a little bit of case studies. We're not going to touch too much on the product demo because we want to touch more just we're going to talk about some features that the system has, and then we're going to talk about a few next steps. So what is Xero? The history and the purpose. It's make life better for people in small businesses, their advisors, and communities around the world. Accounting can be difficult for small businesses. We all know that. You as a small business owner, you have what, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15 hats sometimes, marketer, sales, accounting, everything. And so a lot of times your back office, your accounting can sometimes take a back seat to that. One of the quotes, my favorite quotes, and I know we laughed about this earlier when we did our discussion, was people would say, I'd rather face a root canal with no anesthetic than do bank reconciliations. And that's funny because a lot of small business owners I talk to say the same exact thing is I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with it. And I don't blame them. It's not, it's not for everybody. It's not for everybody. Everybody should be doing it, but it really isn't something that's for everybody.
And just stepping back, Jose, just a little bit. This message goes to that small business owner that probably has 1 or 2 employees, or maybe it's just a solo. I mean, that's how most of us started, and it's okay. And you just go 8 o'clock in the morning, open the office, open the shop, and you're trying to figure things out. You're wearing different hats, but one of the key components as a business owner is to be able to understand your numbers. Do you know what your revenue was last month? And it's okay if you don't. Most of entrepreneurs nowadays, I mean, they just don't know. Do you know what your expenses are? And maybe the first thing that you want to say, you know what, I want to jump into a cloud accounting software like Xero, and I want to start doing accounting myself. Will that be a good idea? Will that not be a good idea? So anyways, I'll let Jose continue, and I'll be interrupting just to keep interaction, to be able to touch base
Yes.
with you. And if you have questions, please make sure to write a comment, and so we'll be able to understand more what you're looking for throughout the conversation.
Yeah, love it, love it, love it. And he has a perfect point there with all of that. So statistics show 85% of small businesses who work with a Xero certified advisor are still in business after 5 years. That's huge. What that is telling us is that if you're working with somebody that understands the finances, a bookkeeper, somebody that understands the software, but not just the software, but understands the numbers themselves, it's going to be a huge asset for you and your business to survive after 5 years. Because we all know the first year, it's hard. I know it was for me. You're scrounging and you're trying to find. And so as you continue to grow after 5 years, usually, and Gustavo, please correct me if I'm wrong, but usually after that 5-year mark is when you really get your feet under you and you take off, I feel like.
Okay, Jose, if we're trying to get personal here, yes, I failed a few businesses in the past, and hey, I was actually that guy. I mean, we had Rick from Bank of America a few minutes ago, and I just remember when I was walking to the Bank of America branch, and I really thought that they had a picture of me. I really thought, everybody was looking at Gustavo while walking inside of the branch and saying, okay, that's the overdraft kid. Because, finances weren't quite there, and it's okay. And I think it's okay for all of us to understand that being vulnerable, that being without cash, that having issues to put money together to pay payroll this Friday, it's okay. And it's going to go over at some point with the right business model, with the right technology, and with the right support system. So
100%.
I hope I made a good comment on that, Jose.
No, I love it. And you're right. I mean, 100% with that setup, with everything in there, it's going to get better. I know right now it may seem kind of not frustrating, but very kind of scary, but it will get better. And especially with our gente, with the drive and the passion that we have, you're going to succeed, because failure is not an option, So, all right. So let's talk about a little bit of the system. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the systems that we get with benefits with the system itself. So we get rapid innovation. So what does that mean? We get to innovate immediately. Moving to the cloud gives us some very powerful advantages. Gives us the ability to have everything online so that you can access your financials at any time. So you can be anywhere around the world. You log in on your phone, you log in on your laptop, on your iPad, on your tablet, on a friend's computer. You can log in and have your financials immediately up to date, ready to go. Get paid faster. So I know a lot of times when we start businesses, and I was guilty of this, I was driving across Houston during traffic, and we all know that Houston traffic is not the best. 290, Gustavo, you know what I'm talking about. Going down for 290 to go pick up a check, and it would take me forever to go get paid.
And Hossein, that's what I tell my clients. And sorry to interrupt you, but that's what I tell my community. What do you mean you're writing checks? What do you mean you're writing checks? I mean, like, literally make your life easier. If you add up all the time that you can save with technology, yeah, call me a millennial, call me a kid, call me whatever you want. But yeah, I can literally, with all the time I save, I can play golf once a week, relax, have fun, enjoy life, or maybe just spend time with my kids, take them to soccer practice, to golf practice, to tennis practice, and enjoy life. Who said that in order for you to be successful in business, you need to suffer? Use technology, leverage it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. And, and kind of to circle back to where you were talking about the payroll issue, is you can get paid faster if you hook up like a Stripe or a payment processor that way. Yes, you're going to incur credit card fees, but you got to take into consideration what's the difference of you driving your time and driving out with the gas and the depreciation on your car and everything going to go pick up a check so that you don't pay the credit card fees. Sometimes the credit card fees end up being a lot cheaper, and you get your money, the next day sometimes? And so there you go. Now you're worried about making payroll. A lot easier because you know you're going to get your cash on hand and not the 60, 90-day wait that you have to wait sometimes for the check to get mailed out to you, or you to go have some time to go pick up your check. Access information from anywhere. So like I was saying, you can access this anywhere you want on any computer, any device with internet. You can jump in, boom, good to go. You have your information in there. Your bankers. We were talking about banking relationships earlier. If you want to give them access, direct access to your books, you can add them as a user. They can go in, see where your numbers are at. Easy peasy.
So we're stepping. Let me step back a little bit, Jose, too, because you're just providing a lot of great information that, as a small business owner, maybe if my revenues are less than $500,000 a year, they're $250,000, $100,000. Sometimes if my revenues are 100,000, 150, I think I'm just never gonna make it. But guess what? Once you start organizing yourself, once you build the right infrastructure, it's just a matter of time, and things start making sense, and then growth will happen. And I think that's something that we can both agree. So you're saying, number one, make sure that you have proper bookkeeping, accounting practices, meaning that you have the right technology. What I will add to it is, do not do it yourself. I mean, it's a waste of time. It's a waste of time. I'm telling you. I mean, I lead an accounting firm, and I don't remember the last time that I got myself involved with the actual data entry. So make sure that you outsource what you're not an expert at, meaning outsource your accounting, outsource your HR, outsource your legal, outsource your marketing. So that way, with the right experts, it will help you accelerate the curve to learn a little bit more about your business model and understand how to run your business more effectively. So you're saying having access from your phone to be able to know your data, be able to know your numbers. So whenever you sit down with a banker, and the first thing is going to ask you is like, well, what's your revenue? Well, so, I've been banking with Bank of America for the last 5 years. But what's your revenue? I don't know. I mean, you have everything on the bank. Can you check? So those little items are going to make you weak. You need to make sure that you know your numbers, that you know your data, that you have access to it, as Jose mentions, so you'll be able to be bankable.
Yeah, no, 100%. And a big reason that I think was a great resource of having that with some of our clients was Mark had touched on it, the EIDL targeted advance grant that they're giving out. They ask you for, I believe, a year or last 2 years of revenue. And because of that, because you're able to pull, if you have that information, we're able to pull it and fill that out immediately instead of having to go back, figuring things out. And so that's why it's important to have those numbers, because you can, anytime something comes up, you can be the first one to jump on that opportunity, to jump on that help that you need.
It's so sad to know that the most vulnerable small businesses in America did not have access to SBA, to federal funding. Why? Because especially our people, I mean, we're not prepared. We don't have access to knowledge. We don't have anybody that can help us out to put these numbers together. So not being organized, not paying taxes. Yeah, it's okay. We're not tracking anyone. But if you're one of those that is always running for the refund on the first few weeks of January, and you're really targeting to get the most money out of the government, in my opinion, it's just my opinion. It doesn't mean that I'm right or wrong, and I'm not trying to judge anyone. I don't know who's connected behind the scenes, but you're in the wrong conversation. If you're literally aiming for the refund and you're not aiming to build wealth in America and to actually pay taxes and to be bankable, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's you're in the wrong chat room. If you really want to build wealth, and if you really want to understand how the banking and the financial system works in America and how well it works, then have proper accounting, have proper financials, have proper tax return, something healthy that whenever you go sit down with the bank is going to tell you, yeah, Jose, I like your profile. You have liquidity, you have assets, you have a good debt income ratio, you don't owe a lot of money. How much do you need? Do you need 1 million? Do you need 2 million? And that's when businesses start building wealth like fire. Boom, super fast.
No, I love it. I love it, and you're right. I mean, that's what it comes down to is circling back to that. And I get asked a lot, like, oh, I know the big thing was how did Donald Trump only pay $750 or something minimum on his tax return? And the answer to that is he had an accountant. He paid for an accountant to help him with that, And same thing, a lot of these people, these big money people, pay little to nothing sometimes, and that's because they do have an accountant that's doing active tax planning to help them do that. So,
And can we step back a little bit, Jose? And that's something that our community have a lot of questioning, and I'm sure we're not going to be able to cover everything. I mean, whatever you cover today, I'm sure that it's going to help a few businesses across the nation, and that it's going to fulfill our hearts. But what's really the role of a CPA? What's really the role of an accountant? What's really the role of a bookkeeper? What's the role of a CFO? Because for what I understand, most business owners, they say, well, I want to go to a CPA because they're going to be able to, to help me grow my business. And I'm like, well, that's tax compliance. Well, I'm going to go to an accountant because they're going to help me build the future and the vision of my business. Well, they're going to help you with your accounting principles. Well, then I'm going to go to a bookkeeper because the bookkeeper is going to be able to help me grow my business. Well, they're just really going to do data entry. So then, I mean, who it's really going to be that point of reference for me to scale, to grow, and to build a roadmap to build wealth in America? So I would like to pick your brain, Jose, in that sense, because that's something that a lot of people say, I have a CPA and I pay no taxes, so I'm set. Are you?
No. And let me tell you that, and I'm glad you brought that up, because there are different distinctions to what different people provide. You have your professionals that will prepare your tax return, okay? And they prepare a tax return and they can be very knowledgeable when it comes to tax, but that's all they know. That's their wheelhouse, taxes. Then you have a bookkeeper who's going to understand, okay, transactions, this transaction goes to this account, this goes here, here's a financial statement, and provides you a financial statement, okay? Then you have more of an accountant and jumping up to potentially a CPA, where they can provide some what's it called? Some advisory roles, okay, here's your finances. What do these numbers mean? Making sure you understand what these numbers mean. Cash flow projections, making sure, how much capital do you have? Things like that. And then once you get to that certain point, you jump up into, I believe, a CFO, where that person is going to essentially be the one that's going to take you, okay, here's where you're at, here's what we need to be, here's the plan we need to get there, and this is how we're going to do it. Whether it's through leveraging debt, whether it's leveraging, whatever it is going to be, that's where it's going to be. And so at every point in your business, you're going to want to take a look at and go there. And the end all game all for a small business, if you're looking to grow, is not to pay no money in taxes. You're going to have to pay some money. If you make money, you're going to have to pay some money. The plan is to pay what truly is owed to you, which is what's truly owed. So making sure that we make all the moves we need to make to save you as much money as possible, so that whatever's left over is your true tax number that you do owe. And I can guarantee you, most of the time, that number is way lower than what you're originally paying.
And Jose, it's so interesting what you mentioned. I was speaking of golf and whatnot. I was playing golf with a lender from a banking institution, from a financial institution this morning, and we were actually having this conversation. He said, Gustavo, I mean, one of the first things that we look at is in the businesses before we provide them access to capital, it's how much money they pay on taxes. And if it's the type of business that is showing 30, 40, $50,000 in net profits and are paying almost no taxes, I mean, it creates a certain level of risk. So having access to capital is also aligning your business model to the market opportunity and economic conditions for growth. Can you show consistent profitability relevant to the market opportunity and economic conditions? I mean, can you actually show that your business is growing regardless of COVID? Do you have a written plan for COVID? Can you actually make revenue predictions? And I mean, it's something that Zero can help you with in terms of technology. And I mean, there is Zero, and I don't want to sound like I'm selling a product or selling Zero. There is Zero, there is QuickBooks, there is NetSuite. NetSuite, I mean, it's pretty much a product from Oracle. And there is tons of technology out there that many of you can use. Can you actually define revenue streams for today, for this week, for next month, and we're not? I mean, and I have a lot of friends in the CPA world, but I mean, do they do that today for small businesses? So understand who you are bringing as a business owner to your conversations. Do you know your metrics and your numbers? Is it the job of a CPA to give you metrics and numbers? Absolutely, it's not. Their job is tax compliance. Can they illustrate effectively management, science, unit economics, measurements, and metrics? And if you don't have any of those resources, you know, I encourage you, ask for help. It doesn't mean that you have to pay for help, but ask for help to be able to put the right resources, you understand your ecosystem, and you bring the right players to be able to grow your business.
100%. I love that. And I'm going to add to that. I would say one more thing is making sure they understand your industry, because there's a lot of catch-all know-alls that you know, they do great as far as compliance work, but to understand the metrics, what are you in comparison to your competitors? How are you faring up? You know, to be able to make those kind of analysis for you. Usually, having somebody who specializes in your industry is going to be a lot more educated in that and be able to help you a lot more grow a lot quicker. So
yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, absolutely. One of the things that I love actually about technology and about Zero, I'm going to tell you an experience that we used to spend hours. And for us, hours mean cost doing data processing. So getting the client's bank statement and processing all the check images and processing all the, all the deposits, I mean, and Jose, I mean, I see that you're smiling and you're like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I mean, we probably did the same thing. Mm-hmm. And then guess what? Boom. A technology like Zero comes around and they say, hey, we can do this in 15 minutes. I'm like, you're lying. You're lying. I mean, I get it. You're trying to sell me a product, but it's not possible that you can do that. So we don't want to get into the technicality, and we don't want to bore you with accounting, because I mean, everybody's like, I don't want to know about numbers and things like that. But just please make sure that you reach out to your accountant, you reach out to your bookkeeper, so that you actually know that those resources exist. Implement them into your business to make your life easier. Mm-hmm. Life is easy. You don't have to suffer.
And as you see right here, we've got a lot of different applications that you can connect to here to make your life easier. So Gusto is a payroll software that I like to use. Work wonderfully. Stripe is a payment processor. Shopify, if you're in e-commerce, is a tremendous software that will help you out. Like I said, there are over 5,000, I believe, 5,000 bank statements, but there are, I believe, over 1,000 applications now that connect to Zero that can help you with just about anything. Deputy, if you have a restaurant industry or you have shifts as far as shift change and things like of that nature, that's one of the best softwares you can use out there as well. And it connects automatically. Then a lot of these applications all connect with each other which makes life a lot easier for you instead of having to manually, like Gustavo was saying, manually take all that information. They'll process it all for you and deliver it for you in a digital format that's easy to read, already processed.
And at the end, I think that's what has been limiting our community from growing our businesses. We don't have access to knowledge. We don't have access to technology. I mean, but it also, hey, I'm not gonna blame it too, and I'm not gonna try to place the race card or anything here or whatnot. But I mean, it has to do also with our mindset. You know, the people that we surround ourselves with, the people that we have on the weekends, the people that we enjoy Saturdays and Sundays, carne asada and whatnot. I mean, who are around us in a daily basis, on a weekend basis, to be able to help us grow our businesses. And that ultimately turns into access to knowledge, access to understanding what a line of credit is, understanding that there is other types of access to capital. It's not just banks. There is private investment. There is equity, VC, angel, traditional loans, other types of lending, friends. I mean, I don't want to use friends and family because that usually turns into, well, what do you mean? I did everything. You know,
More problems.
That's the reason why you're successful. And I'm like, but I'm the one who woke up for the last 1,000 days at 4 o'clock in the morning. They're like, but I gave you $500. Remember. So anyway, just understanding and be able to give access to knowledge. And Jennifer, I want to end up with this for all of the business owners that are listening out there. Make sure that you have a business formation, that you have an LLC, that you have a corp, an S corp, whatever fits your tax strategy. Make sure that you build a cash flowing business, that you are at least compliant with your bookkeeping, with your payroll, that you have healthy financials, that you have healthy tax returns, federal tax returns, state tax returns, that you have a fairly good credit. And once you do that, it's simple. Now you're bankable. And once you're bankable, then you're able to transition and break the cycle of being a regular business owner into breaking the cycle and building wealth through passive income. And then that way you can say, well, Gustavo, I bankrupted my business. What do you mean? And what do you mean that you're in Puerto Rico and having fun with a piña colada? Yeah, I mean, I have $40,000, $50,000 coming in per month. Leverage your business, build your network, understand your ecosystem. Jennifer, Jose, thank you so much for this space, and thank you so much for putting this together.
Thank you, Gustavo and Jose. What a rich discussion. Appreciate both of you being here and sharing your perspective from the other side, right? I appreciate that, and I hope I certainly took a lot away myself. You know, the interesting thing I see here is that technology is wide. And what I mean by that is you had a slide there, Jose, that showed all of the different technologies that could potentially be leveraged to help small businesses in managing their business, in managing their financials. And I want to make sure we're connecting the dots for our audience today. We started this conversation about saying, here are your different options when it comes to lending. Here's what you should know from different lending institutions. And really, all of that boils down to the strength of your financial statements. And that's what this conversation is. How do you leverage technology to increase and elevate the strength of your financial statements? And certainly, you both did a fantastic job about highlighting a few. I also want to reiterate, they talked about a solution. Xero is certainly a solution. It is not the only solution. So please do your research and identify that accounting software that best fits the needs of your business. And take a look at the ecosystem of technology solutions as well. Thank you. Thank you both for sharing that. I do have a couple questions, if you're okay that I ask these questions. You mentioned how important it is to outsource and how important it is to, if you're not an accountant, don't get in the weeds of accounting, right? Outsource that. And you also mentioned, Gustavo, I believe it was you that said it's really helpful if you find somebody with industry expertise. How do you go about that when there might not be much overlap between a financial expert and an expert within their industry? What advice would you give to small businesses?
Well, I mean, I'll speak about my personal experience. I'm personally not an accountant by academic background, and most people in my industry and my ecosystem know that. I'm actually an engineer by background in business, small business strategies by trade. And one of the things that I've learned throughout the last 17 years of experience in small business, in several businesses, failing a bunch of businesses, and finally making it into a few, is that you don't want to go through a learning curve. You want to outsource as much as you can. And let's say, for example, Jose is a great talent, and I call Jose and I tell Jose, can I hire you full time? Jose is going to be like, well, yeah, sure, absolutely. It's going to be $180,000 a year. And I say, well, Jose, I like you and everything, but it's can we work something out? Yeah, absolutely. Pay me $300 a month, and I'll be able to pay, to provide some fractional service to you. Bingo. That's all you need. So it's a contractual relationship that you can leverage from marketing, accounting, legal, and so on. But make sure that you actually build relationships with those within your ecosystem. Legal, accounting, marketing. Do not be jumping one and another, because it's just at the end of the day, 10 years pass by and you're back at square one. That's
Thank you for pointing that out. I think it's extremely important for business owners to know that you don't need to bring Jose or Gustavo on your payroll, right? Their services are, fractional, right? So thank you for sharing that. Here's my challenge to all of you. We are delivering this webinar, and I want it to be extremely practical for you. And so I am leaving you with the challenge, and that is, if you are currently not leveraging a technology for your accounting system, I want you to go away from today's conversation to do your research and identify a technology platform so that you can begin to automate this process. For those of you that are already leveraging some sort of technology platform, I want you to think about the ecosystem of technology applications and where can you create greater efficiencies in your process, in your financial process, so that your time is freed up to work on your business. That is my challenge for you as we go from this conversation, is think about how you can leverage technology to create greater efficiency and accuracy in your financial process. The capital, Jose, Gustavo, thank you so much. I really appreciate the perspective that you brought to this conversation. If you were looking at the chat, there's lots of singing of your praises in the chat. So thank you very much. I would invite you to share your website. If people have additional questions or want to reach out to you post this event, please definitely feel free to reach out to Gustavo and Jose. Thank you very much. The capital conversation continues in our next webinar on Tuesday, June 8th at 1 o'clock Pacific time. I want to give you a sneak peek of what you can expect. You have heard multiple times today, have a banker before you need a banker. Have a lender, a relationship with a lender before you need one. In our next session on June 8th, you will learn how to build that relationship with the lender. What does it look like when you walk into the bank for the very first time? And how do you begin to cultivate that relationship over time? The other actionable and very practical component of our next webinar is, how do you create a one-pager? How do you create that document so that you can describe the capital needs of your company as well as your deployment strategy? So mark your calendar, June 8th at 1 o'clock Pacific time. Be sure to invite other business owners. This information is too rich not to share with other people. Share it on your social media channels. Share it within your network. I encourage you to come back with 2 other people linking arms so that you can really gain access to the capital and the tools to help you grow in 2021. At this time, I want to introduce my colleague, Ilian Savadivker. He's going to facilitate our networking. Networking is an extremely vital component where we get to learn from each other as business owners. Many of the questions you have might be the same or similar questions that other people have. So there is power in creating networks. Ilian, welcome. I want to just turn it over to you and allow you to give us some instructions around the networking.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Delighted to be here. What a fantastic session. Great panel discussion and great work from Jose and Gustavo on that conversation. So we have a networking event here, and I want to make sure before we move on to that you did put on your calendar June 8th, 1 p.m. Pacific time for our second edition of our Capital session. And remember, this is just the second and third session of a 6-part series. So now for networking, some of you are on desktop looking at us in the website, and some of you are on the app. And so there's a couple different ways depending on what platform you're using. But what you want to do is you see the different spaces that you can go to, such as the agenda, the speakers, the resources rooms, which we obviously think that you should visit all of them. But as of now, you want to go into the networking room, and there's going to be a variety of different rooms depending on industry. Now, there will be a general room in case that you want to visit that, but then you will see different resource rooms, different networking rooms depending on your industry. So if you're in the construction industry, if you're in the food industry, if you're in tech, there are different rooms for you to network with those individuals. Now, there is a capacity of 10 people per room. And if you don't see a lot of people in your room, you can be moving around depending on what area of network you want to be doing. So as of this time, I want you all to head over to the networking rooms, click on the one that you want to join, go ahead and spend that time getting to know each other. And some of the things that we recommend you talk about is, what are some of the things that you learned here? What are the action steps that you're going to be putting in after this session? Things of that nature. What company? Where are you located? How to contact you? What things do you need to help your business grow? There's definitely a lot for us to be talking about, and we want to give you all that time. And so go ahead, go to the networking room. We'll see you in there. And for all of you, join us June 8th. I know Jennifer is going to come back up here to do some more closing remarks, but looking forward to seeing you, everybody, on the networking room.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Ilian. Thank you all for joining us. I appreciate you being here. I trust that you received value from all of our speakers, from our panelists to our fireside chat. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Again, our goal and the reason we are facilitating this webinar is to get the resources, to get the education into the hands of Latino and Latina-owned businesses. So I appreciate you being here, and I encourage you to return on June 8th, not alone, but with additional business owners. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon, the rest of the week, and we'll see you on June 8th. Thank you, everyone.